Hey everyone, stepping into the role of your professional legal advisor today, I want to welcome you to this explainer. We're going to explore some incredibly practical safety and privacy tips that, honestly, every single renter absolutely needs to know about their storage unit. Whether you're just using a facility between moves or you're relying on one long-term, understanding exactly where your property rights begin and end is, well, it's absolutely crucial.
So, let's dive right into this essential question. Does locking away your personal property actually guarantee that it stays out of sight? You pay the monthly fee, right? You hold the key to the padlock, and you close that heavy corrugated metal door. It really feels like an extension of your own home. But the legal reality here in the US regarding whether law enforcement can search that space, well, it's a whole lot more nuanced than most people realize.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with a privacy reality check, look at what dictates your privacy, explore when search rules change, talk about handling encounters, and finally wrap up with securing sensitive documents. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The Privacy Reality Check. What exactly are you storing? We aren't just talking about old couches and holiday decorations here, folks. People are storing critical documents, expensive electronics, irreplaceable family items, and highly sensitive business records. Because these spaces hold some of our absolute most private belongings, knowing exactly how secure they are from an outside search isn't just some hypothetical thought experiment, it is literally fundamental to your personal and financial security.
Moving right along to Section 2, what dictates your privacy? Let's look at the legal foundation.
Okay, we absolutely need to dispel the myth of absolute privacy right now. The common assumption is that a storage unit is basically a legal fortress, but the reality? Your protections are highly conditional. Listen, just slapping a lock on a door doesn't magically grant you blanket immunity from law enforcement investigations. Your rights are always being balanced against specific legal standards and conditions.
So, think of your privacy as resting on three main pillars. First up is access. Is the facility wide open to the public, or is it tightly controlled with gates and passcodes? Second, your rental agreement. When you sign that contract, you're actually agreeing to specific rules that influence when management and, by extension, law enforcement can enter your unit. And finally, the specific legal situation. The exact context of an investigation drastically alters your protections.
Section 3. When search rules change. Let's talk about legal exceptions.
Here is the crucial takeaway. Standard privacy expectations can just vanish entirely under certain real-world conditions. The most obvious one? Warrants. If police get a legal warrant from a judge, they have the authority to search your unit, period. But look at these other exceptions, because urgent emergencies can completely change the rules. If there's an immediate threat to public safety coming from inside a unit, law enforcement generally isn't going to wait around for a warrant to bypass those normal rules. Furthermore, abandoned property issues are a massive factor here. If you stop paying your rent and the facility deems the unit abandoned based on your rental agreement, well, your expectation of privacy essentially evaporates.
Section 4. Handling encounters. Because your actions absolutely matter.
Look, it is totally natural to feel stressed out if law enforcement starts asking questions about your property. But panicking, arguing, or just reacting emotionally, that is the absolute biggest mistake you can make, and it will quickly harm your legal standing. The right move, the legally sound approach, is remaining perfectly calm and respectful. Keeping your cool keeps you in control.
Let's break down a super clear step-by-step procedure for safely navigating this kind of encounter. Step 1, like we just said, stay calm. Just take a deep breath. Step 2, be respectful to the officers. You aren't there to win a screaming match on the street. You're there to preserve your rights. And Step 3, this is the big one, clearly decline consent if they ask to search without a warrant.
I want you to memorize this specific script because it's an essential tool. You politely yet firmly look at them and say, "I do not consent to a search." Enunciate it clearly to assert your rights. You don't need to offer any lengthy explanations or justify why you're saying no. Literally just state this phrase. It sets a firm legal boundary that law enforcement then has to navigate using official legal standards, like actually going and getting a warrant.
Section 5. Securing sensitive documents. Let's talk proactive protection.
Because we definitely cannot rely purely on a standard, run-of-the-mill padlock to protect our most vital data, you have to take active steps to safely organize and secure your sensitive information. For renters deeply concerned about this, use secondary locking mechanisms, like maybe a fireproof safe inside the unit. But honestly, for maximum security, never leave your most vital records there. Always keep at least 3 essential documents completely off-site: your original birth certificates, your social security cards, and your primary property deeds.
Knowing these simple legal basics and avoiding those common emotional mistakes is going to totally empower you to protect what belongs to you. We've covered how your privacy is directly tied to rental agreements and facility access, the real-world situations where police can bypass normal rules, and the exact words to use if you're ever questioned. By staying informed about U.S. law and your rights, you really transform yourself from just a vulnerable tenant into an empowered property owner.
So, your belongings might be locked away behind a heavy metal door, but true security comes from actually understanding the laws that govern that space. I highly recommend taking a moment today to review your rental agreement and rethink your storage strategy, because at the end of the day, the ultimate question isn't whether your unit has a lock on it, it's whether you know exactly what it takes for someone else to open it.